Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our grief and loss meditation and class. I'm so glad that you're still joining us, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. So last week we talked about what it means to praise God and how our grief can turn into or is reflective of our praise for God. This week, what I want us to spend some time on is an action of grieving. Martin, in the book The Smell of Rain on Dust, spends a chapter talking about the ocean as a great place to grieve. You know, I'm reminded that as this meditation gets posted, right around this time is spring break for a lot of us. For those of us with children, this is the time when everybody's off. So sometimes it's this week, sometimes it's next week, depending on when it falls. But I wanted you to know in this meditation that if you're traveling for spring break or for whatever, and you find yourself at an ocean, this might be particularly helpful for you. If you're not traveling, or you're not traveling a place where there's an ocean, maybe there's a body of water you can go to. If not those things, then if you plan to travel in the future, and those travels may take you near a stretch of ocean or a body of water, I invite you to think about what we're going to talk about today, which is that the ocean is the source of both grief and life. So let me read you something from the very first page of this chapter from Martin. He says, "Of all the natural world, it is the ocean who is the biggest and best community of all the earth. The great Mother Ocean is literally the womb of the entire earth and its origination of all life. The water of the ocean is salty because it is made of the tears of all the grief of all the world's losses since forever." Let me read that again. The water of the ocean is salty because it is made of all the tears of all the grief of all the world's losses since forever. So it is that the water of all grief, the ocean, is the womb that gives birth to all life. So all life and happiness are born from a womb of life's grief. Let me read that again. So all life and happiness are born from a womb of life's grief. Understanding this will help make it so that you can grieve, and your grief will also go to add to the great life-birthing ocean. So I think that it's wonderful imagery to think about the ocean as a place that holds both all of our life and our grief. So this week I invite you to think about, have you been to the ocean before? What are those memories? Recall them to your mind, whether they're happy or sad. And think about how you might make more memories at the ocean, and maybe where the ocean might be where you go to process some of your grief. The second thing I want to talk about is that Martin goes on in this chapter to define some really intentional ways we can go to the ocean with our grief. He talks about specifically what time of day to go, what to take with you, taking pebbles or jade and leaving them for the ocean and turning your back and facing towards the wind, and all of this embodied action of grieving. I'm not going to go into exactly everything, but one of the things that he talks about is a designated griever. So let me read you, I'm going to read you just one full page, and I recognize it can be difficult to hear, so I'll repeat myself again sometimes. But it starts like this. When going to the beautiful, always generous, powerful sea, make certain it's a stretch of the coast where there's no recreation craft, no nuclear reactors, no oil rigs, military ships, tourists, pollution, and it's out of sight of cottages and resorts. For all those things are losses to the sea for which the ocean herself is grieving. Strangely enough, the occasional fishing boat is no problem. Just a strand where the natural tide grinds the beach or cliff, or as best as possible, whatever you can find. And when going to the powerful, generous, always beautiful, moody ocean, take someone with you whom you can trust. Trust to watch over you. Someone who will not try to cure you, for grief is not an illness, not something to get out of your system. Bring someone who simply and solidly will assist you in only the most tangible ways: sleeping, eating, resting, staying warm or cool, as the case dictates. Someone who will be safe, but not restrained. I call this person the designated non-griever. A good-hearted, smart, awake person who will let you do your grief, who promises not to write a book about their experience with you, and make sure you won't either. Find someone who won't leave you hungry for food, someone who knows how to listen, but doesn't get caught up with the meaning of anything you say, stupid or smart. But more importantly, someone who makes sure it is the ocean who can hear you speak out loud the poetry of your grief to the washing sea. Let me read that last part again. But more importantly, take someone who makes sure it is the ocean who can hear you as you speak out loud the poetry of your grief to the washing sea. I think regardless of whether or not we have been to the ocean, whether or not we're going to take another trip to the ocean, or if we really feel connected to the ocean as a way of grieving, what I think is more important is this bringing alongside of a designated non-griever. When we're grieving, we're surrounded by lots of people, lots of influences telling us what we think they should do, trying to comfort us, assuage us, whatever. But it's important to identify at least one person in your real community, as Martin says, where there are no secrets and no shame. In that community, find a person who is your designated non-griever, who is not grieving the loss, but is rather there to assist you in your basic needs so that you can grieve. That is a powerful bond. I hope you'll think about who that person could be for you. And that person can be different for each loss, for each kind of grief you're going through. But identifying that person is incredibly, incredibly important. So, as you might guess, the question for this week is, who is or who could be your designated non-griever? And tell us a little bit about that person. That's your homework for this week for our next class. I hope that you'll join us, whether you're coming in person to the St. Peter's campus or if you're going to join us online via Zoom. And I hope that you'll take that question under serious consideration. I appreciate you joining us for this meditation, and I'll see you later. Thanks.